Hello and a happy new year to all of our listeners. We're back with the first episode of Insight Weekly for 2020. For those new to the podcast, I'm Laura, the Head of Sales and Marketing here at Intelligence Fusion, and each week I sit down with the senior regional analysts to provide a roundup of the most significant incidents from their region in the last 7 days. As always, we have the usual faces joining us. So we've got Faraj, who leads our coverage across Africa.
Hi, Laura.
Hello. Max, who is responsible for intelligence in Asia and the Middle East.
Hi, Laura.
And Vincent, who is our senior regional analyst for the Americas.
Hi, Laura.
We also have a new member of the team making their first podcast appearance. Welcome to Aaron, who will be providing an overview of Europe for us today.
Hi, Laura.
So firstly, we'll go over to Vraj. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened with the FNDC protests in Guinea this week?
Yeah, sure. So protests were held early this week across Guinea by the FNDC movement. This is a movement opposed to a change to the constitution, which will allow President Condé to run for a third term. The FNDC have organized a number of protests since April of last year, the largest of them being held in the capital, Conakry. Political tension looks set to escalate in the coming weeks, with rhetoric between those supporting a new constitution and those opposing a new constitution escalating. Legislative elections are also scheduled to be held next month, which the opposition have said they will boycott. In December, President Condé said he would seek a public referendum on a new constitution. The FNDC have said that they will hold protests, or they've called for protests on the 13th of January, which is next week. And they have asked mining companies, banks and factories to suspend operations for the day to protect themselves if violence was to break out. They also intend to escalate protests after the 13th of January.
Thank you, Viraj. Vincent, how about the Americas?
Yeah, so this week on Tuesday, a group of armed men attacked an estate belonging to the Forestal Mininco company, which is a forestry company, which is located in the Los Sauces area of the region of Araucanía. The group of suspects threatened the caretaker of a company and then set on fire 13 pieces of machinery, of which 7 were backhoes. No messages were left behind claiming the attack, but it's highly likely, based on previous attacks in the region, that it was committed by a Mapuche militant group. And they've committed quite a few attacks this year and in 2019 and previous years as well, mainly in this region as well as neighboring Biobío and Los Rios regions.
Does the area see other types of Mapuche activity?
Yeah, so they also attack construction companies in the area, and they've also committed before shootings against law enforcement. In a broader sense, the Mapuche communities have also protested against a variety of infrastructure projects in the regions, both from national and international companies in various sectors. And they've also protested in several cities to denounce the government's actions, which they see as infringing on their economy, their territory, and kind of their culture.
Thank you, Vincent. And over to Max.
So this week in the Middle East, we saw a major escalation in the ongoing confrontation between Iran and the USA. And so the Iranians fired a series of ballistic missiles at 2 sites within Iraq. So one target was US assets around Erbil, and the other target was the Iraqi military base of Ain al-Assad, which hosts US and allied personnel. No casualties were actually recorded as a result of these missile strikes, which was interesting and has caused people to speculate that perhaps the Iranians deliberately didn't target or didn't intend to kill any US personnel in the strikes. This we can't really confirm at the moment without any sort of deeper inside knowledge, I suppose. But it's not beyond the pale of possibility, simply because the Iranians will have known that by not killing any US personnel, the situation possibly won't escalate any further. But again, we can't confirm these suspicions for the time being, at least. The implications for this in the region, again, there's a lot of speculation around this, but what seems to be the case at the moment with the discourse coming from both sides is that neither side is looking to escalate after recent strikes. So the US, seeing that no US personnel were killed, do seem content to maybe back away from the more direct military actions and go for more political solutions such as sanctions. Iran is still releasing discourse suggesting that they're looking for a more violent approach, but we predict that this is going to come in the form of proxy attacks against US assets and US allies in the region rather than another round of ballistic missiles. As you can see on the screen now, shortly after the initial missile launches, a plane carrying 176 people crashed in Iran. It was a Ukrainian airline. No one's still to the day. No one's quite sure what caused the plane to crash. There's a lot of theories out already. It crashed shortly after takeoff, and not a lot of information has come out regarding the wreckage so far. Currently, the Iranians are refusing to hand over the black box, which has raised suspicions. Images were released today claiming to show a Tor missile, which is an anti-aircraft missile, close to the scene of the crash site. But again, these are unconfirmed, and we can't really take these at face value for the time being. But we'll be keeping an eye on any investigations into the crash to see if it's part of the ongoing tensions between the USA and Iran.
Thank you, Max. Max and our CEO Michael actually recorded a post-incident analysis of the most recent escalations, which you can find on YouTube. And if you missed it, I'll also pop the link in the comment section of our social media. And now over to Aaron.
Yeah, so in Europe, I actually highlighted 3 separate incidents, which stood out because they're almost exactly identical. So in each case, a man wielding a knife, shouting Allahu Akbar, was shot dead by police. And what is even more interesting is that the narratives that followed the attacks were also very similar. So in each case, reports came out initially saying the assailant was already known to be mentally ill by law enforcement. And this resulted in 2 of the attacks, so the one in Metz, France, and the one in Gelsenkirchen in Germany, to no longer be treated as a case of terrorism. Now, in Paris, the events unfolded a little bit differently. In Paris, there was reason to treat the incident as terrorism because the attacker was found to have books related to Salafi jihadism with him during the attack. The counter-terror prosecutors in Paris, I'll quote them, they said, an act of terrorism cannot be ruled out just because the person has psychiatric problems. And this is interesting because that's exactly what happened in the other 2 incidents 2 days later.
Thank you. And that is it for this week's overview of the global security landscape. Don't forget, you can sign up to our mailing list to receive the latest episode of Insight Weekly directly to your inbox. We'll see you next week.